So one from a lady called Lakshmi G. She's got a sore throat, so I'm just going to ask it for her. How do we bridge the gap so British Hindus, children, can learn about yoga, Hindu gods and goddesses and their practices without using your complicated terminology? Who wants to answer that? Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sutton.
So
yeah, you go ahead.
When we have a look on the entire complications of the of the all the practices, so basically the best way and the simplest way is the yoga. Why I'm calling it the simplest way to practice? Because everything is here. We are passionate about the science today's world, and with the upcoming child, they generally understand in the scientific way. So yogic practices are very scientific, and the spirituality and Vedantic practices and the Indian philosophy, especially the Yoga philosophy and Sankhya philosophy and the Vedanta philosophy, the philosophies are very closely and very closely associated with our day-to-day life. So we have to understand the complications are there, but we have to understand the complications with the simplicity. So we have to simplify the things, and we have to put the things in a simple way. So that's why I always recommend it. Please connect the things in a simple way with your practices in the day-to-day life. So when you practice on the regular basis, the things will be stable in your body and mind. So definitely it will help you a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi.
Yeah, I've just been could I answer something?
Yes, please. Yeah.
It's particularly relevant to me because I've just, my 8-year-old son's off school, and I've been trying to do some homeschooling as we're supposed to, and we got stuff from school and it looks so dreadfully boring that I thought I would try and do it what I know about. So what I've been doing with them and the older boy as well, we're just going through stories in the Mahabharata and saying, this is what Yudhishthira did, this is what Bhima did, who was right? Or else we've taken verses from Mahabharata in which various speakers explain Dharma and exploring those ideas and saying, what do you think about this? Just showing them something and saying, what do you think about that? Because the stories in Mahabharata in particular are just essential to the human dilemma, and I think if you can get those stories and then talk about them afterwards. And my older boy has been quite critical of Krishna in the Mahabharata. He said, he's devious behavior, so we've been discussing why Krishna tells a lie so Drona is killed, and issues like that, why Bhima killed Duryodhana in that way, and whether the end justifies the means. So the stories, the accounts, the traditions are so rich that if you can find something and just fasten onto it, read it, and then talk about it with the children. I think what the young people I've found over the years, British Hindus here, as they're growing up, they're not so bothered about the ritual side of it, but what they're looking for is the spiritual guidance of it. And they are very interested in the Upanishadic revelation and things like that. So I think, first of all, you have to know it yourself and then talk about it with them, not in a didactic manner, but just discuss what this says. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Back and forth like that. That seems to, my experience anyway, that seems to work pretty well, actually.
Yeah, I'm doing storytelling with children at the moment, and that does really, really help, and just slipping in yoga and Krishna doing yoga. Like I said, I had no idea that Krishna or Ram or anybody did yoga, and I've heard these words, sadhana, as I've been growing up, but I didn't connect that actually that's yoga. And actually, why am I not doing that if this is something that they do?
And what I would like to recommend, as Nicholas explained, that stories are a very good way to put in the front of the children. So there is a Panchatantra, and all the stories are existing in our Sanskrit texts. So we have to introduce these texts with the children. So these texts may be very helpful for the children.
What was that called again? Panchatantra.
Yeah, Panchatantra.
And they're like here. My sister, when I was a kid, she brought me something called Aesop's Fables. It's kind of like the equivalent.
Yeah. So basically, these stories are based on the animals, and in these stories there are so many good lessons are there, and there are they explain everything in a very simple way with the some animal characters basically.
Yeah.
So there are characters. I hope you have seen the Jungle Book.
Yes.
Right.
Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, when we call the Jungle Book, suddenly the story will come in our mind. What is the Jungle Book? Okay, that is the Jungle Book. So when I was in my childhood, and I know that I have seen the stories in that time. Even I can recollect all the memories. So the same thing is here. It's very scientific and very psychological, as Nicholas explained all the things. Stories impact is very deeper. So when we introduce this, yeah. So when we introduce the things in a very simple way, if we can, it depends on the style. What you can do, a simple thing, you can make it a very complicated, and one is a very complicated thing, and it's up to you. You can simplify these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I was just thinking then in the Mahabharata, there's a story, because we were talking about gurus earlier, there's a story about an old cat who couldn't hunt for anymore. So he started standing like this in a yoga posture. And then all the mice came and looked at him and thought he was a great yogi. And they all came and bowed down and became his disciples. And then gradually they noticed that day by day they were getting fewer in number, as the cat guru was eating them one by one there, and then began to realize. So in that story, there's a message there for us that we were talking about before about gurus. Interesting as well, in Mahabalipuram, there's a carving of that on an Arjuna's penance down the bottom. We used to call it pussycat penance. He's standing there like that, and all the mice coming up and bowing down to him. So it's warning there. But anyway, sorry,
that's
struck me.
Can I just come in there?
Yeah, sure, of course you can.
Yeah, so I'm a children's teacher. We've been teaching children from the ages of 8 to 13 and also 13 to 18. We have taken them onto the path of yoga, the path of meditation, the path of niyamas and yamas in a very, very, very beautiful way. And we've done them across Europe, across India. And just Lakshmi was asking that question. It's really fantastic. These kids, they're so dedicated. But you have to teach them in the right way, the proper way. Yeah, because their attention span is not so much as us. Yeah, so we go through it, all of it, very beautifully. It's called Art Excel or Yes courses. Those are the names. Beautiful.
You have to give me this information. I'm gonna put all of this up.
I don't have children, so I have very little experience with young kids, but I do know this concept of jnana and sort of vijnana, so the idea of the knowledge and then sort of being pragmatic and being able to apply the knowledge and making it sort of relevant for one's sort of own dharma as an experience in the world as well. So definitely the kind of, having that knowledge which is useful for the individual, because we live in a society where we're almost overwhelmed with information. And it's interesting, because even I was having a discussion with my yoga teacher earlier this morning, and he was explaining that knowledge these days, we can just go to Wikipedia and find out. We're talking about sort of the kleshas in yoga, and we talked about avidya, which is sort of almost like ignorance of the self and lack of knowledge almost. And you can almost go to Wikipedia and find out what all the words mean. But then that's one thing. But even to grasp a tiny bit of those deep profound experiences associated to those words, and to really be sort of reveling. And I'm just a humble speck in this whole universe, you know. I won't say I'm knowledgeable, but to even grasp one tiny little bit is such a profound way. And sometimes that sort of self-knowledge, even just contemplating within, profound realizations can occur.